Over the last year, the Dallas Cowboys have been rebuilding their wide receiver core from the Dez Bryant, Terrance Williams, Cole Beasley, Brice Butler group that dominated the wide receiver room from the end of the Tony Romo era through the first couple years of the Dak Prescott era. Last offseason, Dez Bryant was released, and so far this offseason, Brice Butler was allowed to walk, then signed after being cut by the Arizona Cardinals and then cut after just a couple of weeks with the team. The Dallas Cowboys have released Terrance Williams to continue the wide receiver rebuild, and Cole Beasley is expected to walk in free agency for the opportunity at more opportunities and more money. The wide receiver room is now led by Amari Cooper, acquired in the middle of the 2018 season for the Cowboys' first-round pick, and Michael Gallup, drafted in the third round of the 2018 NFL Draft. As the Cowboys continue reshaping their wide receiver group to better fit this new era of quarterbacking, they will likely look to the draft to fill out their depth chart ahead of the 2019 season. In this year's version of the draft, there are a lot of really good players that will be taken in the second and third rounds that could interest the Dallas Cowboys and complement their current group of receivers really well. Here are 5 wide receivers that could be available when the Dallas Cowboys go on the clock at number 58. Marquise Brown, WR, University of Oklahoma. If you were allowed to take one trade at wide receiver and add it to the Dallas Cowboys for the 2019 season, I think many of you would take a wide receiver who has the speed to take the top off of the defense. Let me introduce you to Marquise Brown. There are several players in this draft that have speed, but none use their speed and change of speed quite like Marquise Brown from the University of Oklahoma. For 2 seasons, he constantly was able to get behind defenses, even though they knew what a threat he was. In his 2 years at OU, Brown finished with 2 1,000-yard seasons. Last year he finished with 75 receptions for 1,318 yards and 10 touchdowns while averaging 17.6 yards per reception. For his career, Brown averaged 18.3 yards per reception and 8.5 touchdowns in his 2 years. With his speed, he's a player that could go as early as the late first round, because speed is a very difficult trait to replicate. Read my full scouting report on Marquise Brown. Deebo Samuel, WR, South Carolina. No player did more for their reputation at the Senior Bowl than South Carolina wide receiver Deebo Samuel. He's being looked at as a player that could step in and help the Dallas Cowboys in the slot. He provides good route running and hands. At 5'11", 214 pounds, Samuel has the build to be an effective player over the middle of the field and the quickness to find open space. While his 3-cone drill only landed him in the 35th percentile among wide receivers, his 40-yard dash and 20-yard shuttle landed him in the mid-60th percentile. In his senior season, Samuel caught 62 passes for 882 yards, and 11 touchdowns in 12 games. Like Marquise Brown and many of the other wide receivers that could be available in the second round, Samuel could also be a late first-round option as well. Read Kevin Brady's scouting report on Deebo Samuel. Hakeem Butler, WR, Iowa State. Size and strength is another quality that the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver group doesn't have. Iowa State's Hakeem Butler has that in spades. He's strong at the catch point and has the strength to win 50-50 battles for the ball. He's excellent catching back shoulder fades and running down the sideline. Hakeem Butler's huge frame gives his quarterback a lot to work with. Generally, when we see a player that has the size and production that Butler has, you're talking about a first-round talent. Other than running back David Montgomery, the Iowa State offense had very little talent, but was able to keep pace with a lot of their Big 12 counterparts because of the play of Hakeem Butler. If you go back and watch the Oklahoma game, it's one highlight catch after another. He made the Sooners look like a bad high school team that day. The way Butler is able to outjump everyone as well as run by a lot of his defenders is impressive. He has strong hands that make it difficult for defensive backs to rip the ball away after the catch. His final season at Iowa State, he averaged 22 yards per reception on 60 catches to go along with 1,318 yards and 9 touchdowns. At 6'6", 225, he provides an excellent red zone and jump ball weapon for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys offense. With his impressive combine performance, 4.49 in the 40-yard dash, he may not be available in the second round. However, with how deep the NFL draft is, you never know who could fall. Andy Isabella, WR, University of Massachusetts. If there is a player that isn't projected to be a first-round pick that has become a fan and analyst favorite, it's University of Massachusetts wide receiver Andy Isabella. He's a diminutive but speedy receiver that won all over the field in college. He was very productive in his senior season, catching 102 passes for 1,698 yards and 13 touchdowns. In the 2 seasons prior to his electric senior season, Isabella he caught at least 62 passes each year and averaged 910 yards receiving and 8.5 touchdowns. He an electric player that can be a slot receiver, but also adds a dimension in the deep passing game as well as the return game because of his speed. His size will remind people of Ryan Switzer, but he's a faster player than the former Cowboys wide receiver. Read Brian Martin's scouting report on Andy Isabella. Paris Campbell, WR, Ohio State University. Of all the players in this bunch, there may not be a player that will be available to the Dallas Cowboys at 58 with as much athleticism as Ohio State University wide receiver Paris Campbell. Campbell combined size and speed at 6'1", 208 pounds, while running a 40-yard dash that put him in the 96th percentile among wide receivers. Not only did he test really well in the athletic measurables, Campbell brings really good production along with him. In 2018, Campbell caught 90 passes for the Buckeyes for 1,063 and 12 touchdowns. In his first 2 years of playing regular time in 2016 and 2017, the Buckeyes gave him some carries too, and he averaged more than 13 yards per carry on 14 rushes over those 2 seasons. As a returner his sophomore and junior season, he averaged 27.8 and 36.6 yards per kick return. Campbell has the athleticism and quickness to have a year 1 impact for the Dallas Cowboys in the slot and could be the guy they go to for their jet sweeps. As things stand now, the Dallas Cowboys could use some more speed at the wide receiver position, and this draft is loaded with guys that can threaten a defense vertically. Even Hakeem Butler, who brings imposing size and strength, has the speed to stretch the defense. At pick number 58, the Cowboys are going to have options available to them. Perhaps a couple of these guys could be available when they pick at number 90 in the 3rd round. This draft may not be heavy on guys that are projected to be taken in the 1st round, but there are a lot of options for them to get a guy that can provide another dynamic element to this young offense. The Dallas Cowboys continue to shape their 2019 offseason roster. After re-signing 2 of last year's defensive reserves, the team has reportedly planning to hang on to 3 key offensive role players in guard, center Joe Looney and wide receivers Tavon Austin and Allen Hurns. For Hurns and Looney, retaining them involves exercising team options on their contracts for this season. For Austin, who is set to become an unrestricted free agent, it means signing him to a new deal. Cowboys have an option on Joe Looney. OL proved valuable as a starter in 2018. Source says they'll bring him back to back up C. Travis Frederick. Deal could happen today. Looney was a huge part of the Cowboys' playoff-reaching success last year, filling in admirably as the starting center when Travis Frederick missed the entire season. He will count $1.6 million against Dallas' salary cap. That's a bargain for a player with Joe's value. He can play guard or center, and both at a winning level. Even with all signs positive for Frederick's return in 2019, Looney is still a great asset to have, and the team is wise to retain him. Scoop: not only do at A1 Hurns, despite that gruesome ankle injury from January 5th, is back on field here at the Star working out. Wow, keeping Hearns is a bit of a surprise given his 2018 play. After all, it was his inability to emerge as a primary receiver which forced Dallas to trade a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. However, according to reports, this move may be nothing more than a risk-free insurance policy. If Dallas ultimately decides to release Hearns, it would only cost them $1.25 million in dead money against the cap. If he sticks, Allen will have a $4 million base salary along with other incentives. He could count up to $6.25 million against the 2019 cap by the end of the season. Hearns has talent, having been a 1,000-yard receiver once in Jacksonville. If he can find a groove in Dallas, it gives them 3 starting-caliber players along with Cooper and Michael Gallup. He also has the ability to play out of the slot, potentially replacing Beasley. Speaking of. But to summarize, he makes a lot of sense both for potential uses on offense and his ability as a return specialist. It doesn't seem likely that Dallas and Beasley will come to terms on a new deal, with Beasley wanting both a larger role and the money that should come with it. The Cowboys are clearly committed to Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup as their starters going forward. With both Austin and Hearns coming back, it would appear Dallas is fully prepared and even expecting to lose Beasley to free agency. These moves also suggest that the team is hoping that its change in offensive coordinator, dropping Scott Linehan for Kellen Moore, will be the spark that they need. They don't seem to be adding more firepower, but focusing on getting better use out of their weapons. We'll see how this strategy plays out, or if the rest of the offseason activity changes this perception. The Dallas Cowboys resigned 2 of last year's reserve defenders with expiring contracts. Linebacker Justin March Lillard and safety Darian Thompson have accepted 1-year deals to return for 2019. Thompson's contract was reported at $720,000 next season. It should be a similar number for March Lillard, who made $630,000 in 2018. 2 1-year deals for Thompson and March Lillard in Dallas. https://t.co/G4HOGGRV. Darian was added last October off of the Cardinals practice squad. He was a 3rd-round pick for the Giants in 2016 and was a 16-game starter in 2017, but was injured and lost the job the following off-season. The Cowboys have a lot of bodies at safety already with Xavier Woods, Jeff Heath, Kevin Frazier, and other prospects. Fans are hoping for at least one more big name to be added in the next few weeks, and nothing about this move will limit that potential. Thompson has nothing more than an intriguing depth option with upside. For Justin March Lillard at linebacker, though, there could be more opportunity. Damian Wilson is a free agent and Sean Lee still isn't guaranteed to return at his current salary cap hit, though the team has indicated it wants to find a way to keep him. Stated in Phillips' tweet, March Lillard was one of the top special teams players last year. He was active for all 16 games and has been with Dallas since the middle of 2017. No, these aren't the defensive moves you're waiting to hear about. But, while we're all staring at March 13th on the calendar and those marquee free agents, the Cowboys have 90 roster spots to worry about this offseason. We're now less than a week away from the annual NFL spending spree known as free agency, which opens March 13th. There's been a lot of talk about how active the Dallas Cowboys are going to be this offseason, with them already linked to several high-profile free agents. Jerry Jones' recent comments would have you believe that the Cowboys will be aggressive in their attempt to improve a roster that went to the divisional round of the playoffs last season. Other reports make it sound like the Dallas Cowboys will be business as usual in their pursuit of free agents starting next week. Namely, letting the top-tier players find their deals while shopping for bargains after the first wave has passed. Obviously, fans want their team to have a balance between smart spending and adding top-tier talent, but sometimes you have to compromise one of those. You can't always get a top-tier talent unless you're willing to spend freely. This is where the Dallas Cowboys find themselves between a rock and a hard place. They drafted well and managed their contracts well so that they have minimal dead money on their 2019 cap, but what good is that money unless they spend it? As the Dallas Cowboys get ready for the first phase of roster building, let's take a look at their top team needs heading into free agency. 1. Defensive tackle. As it stands now, the Dallas Cowboys only have 2 defensive tackles on the roster for 2019. Maliek Collins and Antwaun Woods, who both started the playoff games and should be penciled in to start Week 1 of the 2019 season, are the only 2 defensive tackles in the roster. David Irving, Datwan Jones, Daniel Ross, and Karan Reed are all set to be free agents, and there's been no indication that they plan to bring any of them back. Tyrone Crawford, who spends some time on the Cowboys' interior, may be forced to be at right defensive end full-time this season if Randy Gregory's indefinite suspension bleeds over into the regular season. That leaves at least 2 spots in the defensive tackle depth chart that the Cowboys need to fill to have their rotational tackle group. Free agency provides some options, but it's the draft that provides the best opportunity to get players to fill in behind Woods and Collins this year. In many mock drafts, draft analysts have the Dallas Cowboys taking a defensive tackle in the 2nd or 3rd round. With the depth of talent available in 2019, the Cowboys could double up at the position. 2. Safety. The free agent safety group looks to be one of the best positional groups to ever walk into free agency. Earl Thomas, Eric Weddle, Landon Collins, Tyrann Mathieu, Trey Boston, Glover Quinn, and several other interesting names are going to be looking for new teams this spring. The Dallas Cowboys have been linked to Earl Thomas for more than a year now, but the presence of this kind of free agent class could have the Cowboys looking in a younger or cheaper direction. With Xavier Woods' versatility to play either safety role, the Cowboys can approach the safety market with an open mind. Jeff Heath, on the other hand, left us with a bad taste in our mouths from the 2018 season. Heath's a solid role player who contributes on special teams, but got overexposed in 2018. Too many times he allowed ball carriers to pick up tons of extra yardage by trying to strip the ball out instead of just tackling. An upgrade is needed there. While Earl Thomas is the top name that many in Cowboys Nation want, Landon Collins might be the player that makes the most sense. He's only 25, been to 3 Pro Bowls and been selected to Oman first-team All-Pro team. Collins is a guy you can add to this young group and continue to build with, and allows Woods to stay in the more traditional free safety spot that he played last year. Woods played really well in 2018 and will be one of your full-time safeties when the 2019 season rolls around. If a free agent safety isn't your cup of tea, there will be options for the Dallas Cowboys at 58, such as Darnell Savage Jr. from Maryland. 3. Wide receiver. Terrance Williams is gone, Allen Hurns is hurt, Cole Beasley looks to be on his way out, Noah Brown has some skill but is best served as your 4th or 5th wide receiver, and Cedric Wilson isn't really a known quantity. Outside of Amari Cooper, and to a lesser extent Michael Gallup, this wide receiver group has some needs. This draft may be light at the top of the draft at wide receiver, but there are several guys that could be around in the 2nd and 3rd round when the Dallas Cowboys make their picks. The Cowboys could go after a speed guy like Marquise Brown from the University of Oklahoma, a slot wide receiver like Andy Isabella or Deebo Samuel, or get a big target with a huge catch radius in Iowa State's Hakeem Butler. 4. Defensive end. What looked like a strength heading into the offense, with DeMarcus Lawrence set to get his big contract extension and Randy Gregory coming off of his first full season, now looks like an area of need. DeMarcus Lawrence needs shoulder surgery. His contract situation looks like something that could drag on throughout the offseason and into training camp. Lawrence was tagged with a non-exclusive franchise tag, which means he could negotiate with teams, but the Cowboys would still have the opportunity to match any offer. This could be the Cowboys' way of letting another team set his price. So long as it isn't a team like the Colts or 49ers who have gone of cap space, Lawrence wouldn't likely see an offer that the Cowboys couldn't match. When it's all said and done, Lawrence will be suiting up Week 1 for the Cowboys. Randy Gregory, however, may been a different story. This season, he's been suspended indefinitely by Commissioner Roger Goodell. Gregory will forevermore be one step away from his NFL career being over, and this latest suspension is a reminder of that. Gregory's a terrific football player, but nearly impossible to count on him always being available. Thankfully, like it is for defensive tackles, the 2019 NFL Draft is full of potential defensive ends throughout the draft. Names like Charles Omenihu and Chase Winovich could be options for the Cowboys at 58. There are several intriguing options the Cowboys could pursue in free agency, from big money names like Justin Houston and Trey Flowers to lower prices options like Dante Fowler or Shane Ray. Though they have Taco Charlton, Terrance Armstrong, and Tyrone Crawford in the mix at defensive end, it would benefit them to add another player at the position, especially if Crawford has to continue splitting snaps between end and tackle. 5. Running back. It may be odd to look at a position group that features the NFL's league leader in rushing 2 out of the last 3 seasons, and while the need at running back isn't exactly about Ezekiel Elliott, it kind of is about Ezekiel Elliott. The Dallas Cowboys are looking to extend their dynamic runner, and if they do so, it would be wise for them to get someone who can share some of the running and passing game burden. Whether they trade for Duke Johnson or sign a free agent like T.J. Yeldon or Jalen Richard, the Cowboys hope avenue some options to explore. The NFL Draft is another place to find a guy who can give you 5 to 10 touches per game. In particular, the Dallas Cowboys could use a player to help in the passing game and be a change of pace back for the Cowboys. In the draft, you could be talking about guys in the 4th round or beyond like Oklahoma's Rodney Anderson or Oklahoma State's Justice Hill. The Cowboys appeared to make a concerted effort to throw the ball to Ezekiel Elliott last season, but it didn't always turn out to be a good thing. Finding a player with more suddenness and burst as a receiver will help the offense when quarterback Dak Prescott goes to check the ball down. Also, adding a receiving back has the added benefit of keeping Elliott fresher throughout the game and in the regular season. If paying Ezekiel Elliott is a priority, then finding a player to complement him and give the team quality snaps should be a priority too. Beginning of the 2019 season may still be 6 months away, but preparation and roster construction begin soon on March 13th. Armed with $50 million in salary cap room, the Cowboys have the opportunity to be players in the early stages of free agency this year at positions of need. How they end up using the cap space will be an interesting storyline to watch throughout March.